Howdy, Huth here. Quick, what do you think about TF2 right now? The current state of TF2. Do you have any criticisms? Are you happy with the game? Now, this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, so I thought it'd be nice to talk about it with you all. So let's talk about it. Now, recently, I haven't really been playing that much TF2 to be completely honest, but it has nothing to do with my thoughts on the state of the game. It's just because I've been busy. But during this time of not really playing much TF2, it has made me quite reflective on how I feel about the game, and particularly it's put me in a bit of a critical mindset. Now, I've also been watching content. What sticks out to me most is, of course, if you've seen him, Zesty Jesus' content, which is always particularly critical. From what I've seen, Zesty Jesus can be somewhat, it seems like they're not as mainstream as other people. And while I'm not exactly a full-on fan of the person, I definitely do think that their videos have a unique perspective on TF2. So that is the context for my relationship with TF2 at the moment. With that being said, let's talk TF2. Now, let's play some TF2 in the background while this is going on. I have no idea what this game mode is. I've never played it before, but I thought I would bring up the TF2 holiday whatever update. Speaking of updates, that is the first topic that I'd like to talk about. Now, you may be more aware than I am, but it seems to me like TF2 updates have a pretty negative reputation. I've seen a lot of videos on the topics, and that's mostly where my information comes from, aside from playing the game directly. Now, it seems like TF2 has the reputation, or I should say Valve has the reputation, of being quite lazy. I mean, most of the content that comes out in these updates are community-made maps and cosmetics and things like that. And with this community-made content comes a lower quality content, you could say, less polished, and particularly less testing goes on. Now, from my perspective, there's also an element of having less interest. Because it's not Valve-made content, I'm inherently less invested in the content that's coming out. Recently is a perfect example of this. I've been quite busy, but that hasn't stopped me from playing other video games. And while there's been updates going on, I haven't really been particularly motivated in playing TF2. There's also some dramatic elements at play with these updates. Particularly, I've heard it can be quite difficult for less popular map makers and cosmetic makers to get into the game. Now, again, I'm not exactly an authority on all of this stuff. Most of this is coming from videos, but it sounds to me like there's a small community where more popular map makers, cosmetic makers, they have the most likelihood of being put in the game. And as someone who wants to have the best type of content in the game, unfortunately, you get put in a position where it does put the community's content in a strange position. It does put map makers and cosmetic makers in a unique position where I would imagine it would not be a very enticing community to engage with, if that is the case. Maybe you'll have more information on the topic, and please let me know what your thoughts are on that. Ultimately, though, what it comes down to for me, my feelings on the updates and the state of updates, is that there's way too many maps. It's actually quite annoying for me because new maps come out every update, and that's fun, but they just are permanently added to a map pool that once the update's done, there's not really a lot of opportunity to find those maps. I don't want to go through the trouble of setting up a server or something like that so I can play new maps with a full group of people. I do have some random ideas on how to improve it, but again, I'm not exactly an authority on TF2, so I have no way of knowing whether these ideas are good. But I was thinking that during the updates, maybe have the maps and then just don't put them permanently in the game, maybe. Because I think community map makers, or community-run servers rather, they can just put maps in anyway. So I don't understand why there's the need for putting in these large maps, this large map pool. I don't understand what the need of that is. Maybe that wouldn't be the best case scenario, but honestly, I don't understand what the point is. Casual can't handle having all of these maps, and it's going to be the community servers anyway, so why? I guess having the maps preloaded makes it easier, but anyways, that's always been something that's annoyed me. And next up on the topic list is cosmetics specifically. Again, community-made cosmetics just inherently feel like they have less quality, and they inherently are less interesting to players like me. But I guess Oh, and of course, the theming of the cosmetics, that also can extend to maps. They can be boring to me. I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say that the themes can be inherently just lesser quality, but they definitely are less interesting. But for me in particular, cosmetics are a little bit easier to overlook. I died on that one. So in that way, it's not horrible, but the way cosmetics are isn't exactly great either. So for me, cosmetics overall is just kind of a take it or leave it thing. I don't really feel that great about it. Sometimes there are some good cosmetics, don't get me wrong, but most of the time I don't really feel that great about it. Another aspect of TF2 that I've been thinking about recently is just generally the history of TF2 and how that makes me feel about the game. Now, TF2 has a very long-standing history, and I would say a positive legacy. But unfortunately, at the same time, more recently, TF2 has a negative reputation. Again, with the laziness and things like that. One of the biggest stains on TF2's reputation recently is the bot crisis. And honestly, I don't know enough to say whether or not it could come back, but I would not be surprised if somehow, some way the bot crisis does reemerge. Unfortunately, that's just where TF2's reputation is as a whole. Now, again, I don't know if that is an unfounded fear or not, but based on the way TF2 has been maintained, I would not be surprised if something like that were to happen. Realistically, I think that it probably would be addressed a bit more quickly, but in general, the idea that that could return it's a very sad idea. Now, in terms of the community, again, I'm not exactly the most knowledgeable. I've only really ever interacted with the YouTube community, and from what I've seen, it's maintained a level of activity that is very impressive, but I don't know how long that's going to be maintained. And especially recently, I'm not sure if it's been the most active. The only projects going on that I know about are the Meet the Medic in Real Life project, which is, to be fair, very interesting. What else has been going on? Yeah, I can't really think of any other big projects that are going on that have me excited, particularly. And so in that way, Valve has just not been very helpful or conducive to a really interesting content community, which again is unfortunate that Valve isn't really playing into anything like that. It's very sad, and it does fall in line with the other aspects of the TF2 community. And just in general, in terms of the TF2 community, Valve seems to be very, very distanced. It's always been that way. Now, it is good that they recently finished the, what was it called? The comic. That was a really good thing that happened. I do see posts on TF2's, news board when you play the game about, like, competitions and tournaments and things like that, but I've never really, other than that, there's not very tuned in, so maybe I'm wrong about Valve not really supporting the community in that front. And ultimately, again, another negative aspect of TF2 is the whole gambling aspect. And that's something that I've unfortunately just become numb to. I overlook it it is something that you overlook. But it's not great. It's not a very good thing, especially when the game is not maintained. Maybe if the game was actively maintained and there's a lot of free things going on that makes everyone happy, that would be, very interesting, and it would be easier to overlook the gambling aspect, but that's just not how it is. So, unfortunately, that's another negative that is always in the back of my mind. Not happy about that. And the last, but definitely not the least thing that I think about with TF2 that I'm the most critical about has got to be the matchmaking, because it is bad. I've seen people talk about this a lot on YouTube, and once again, I'm not exactly the most technically aware of how matchmaking works, but I think it's fair to say that it's bad. I mean, with the whole map situation, that's part of it. There's a huge selection of maps, but when do you ever get to play all those other maps? It's strange, and I don't like it. For me, the way that I think about it is that TF2 is a very casual game, and so that means that there should be a very casual form of matchmaking. Dropping in and dropping out should be very easy, but that's not always the case. It does take time, and games end shorter than you'd like to, and that's just the biggest issue that I have. Finding games and length of games are a big issue. Now, I've seen other videos where they go very much into detail, and I can't really do that just because I don't have the technical knowledge to, but even as a casual player of the game, yeah, it's an issue for me. Now, I always hear about quick play and how quick play would be really awesome to have. And you know what? I don't know if that is the case. I don't know if they'd have to. Maybe it would be a situation where introducing quick play would be a lot of work, but it would be worth doing the work, I think. I think it would be worth doing the work. Now, another aspect of TF2 that is just embarrassing, I think, is the competitive. The form of competitive it's horrible. As far as I'm aware, competitive only really
stands from the community. The community has and is currently the only way that anything happens competitively. So why I don't understand why it's in the game is what I'm trying to say there. Why is competitive still in the game if it's so butt cheeks? I don't understand it. It's very, again, it just plays into the reputation that Valve currently has, and ultimately it needs to change for Valve. And again, like I said earlier, there's too many maps. There's just, TF2 as a game is still great. Is it actively getting worse? I'm sure you could argue that. The core fundamental aspects of TF2, when I get into a game and play it, that stuff, for the most part, is good. It's just everything surrounding it is really, it's decaying in a way that I have been able to ignore as a casual fan, but more recently it's just become less and less. I'm less and less able to ignore it. It's unfortunate. And ultimately, my feelings on TF2 are, there is respect. There is a lot of history that I appreciate. The community, as far as I know, maybe it's not got a lot of momentum right now, but I still do respect and appreciate the community for the most part. But ultimately, TF2's just got me feeling a little bit sad. That's kind of where I'm at. It's sad because it's always been very impressive to me how the community has sustained itself. And the game, despite everything, despite all the negatives, has been able to keep pushing along. But it's getting to a point where it makes me sad. I want to see it be better. And honestly, I don't know what it takes to maintain a game like this, but it doesn't seem like it would be... It doesn't really seem like it would be a ton. It would probably take work, and it's probably more than I know. It doesn't seem like it would be all that intense and all that crazy. The only thing that makes me feel hopeful about the future of Valve in general is that they're probably working on something crazy in the background. I mean, you've probably seen it. Half-Life 3 stuff has been talked about and, still rumors, but lots of different people are saying they have different things going on. It seems like it's very generally accepted that Half-Life 3 is in the works. And so maybe if something happens where they release a really cool new Steam Deck, or I've heard rumors of a console, like redoing the console thing. If that happens and it's really awesome, then I will be able to overlook what's happening with TF2. But if that's not going to happen anytime soon, and even if once those things do come out, if TF2 isn't addressed, maybe I'll stop playing. But I want to make content, so maybe I won't stop playing. Who knows? Anyways, let me know what your thoughts are on all of this, because in some ways I'm like an outside looking in type of person. And also I just want to make videos, and making videos seems the most easily accessible through TF2. Let me know what your thoughts are on all this. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.